Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of season 2 with the Citrix Session. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. I had to think about that for a second because we've done so many of these that I was going to do the total math on it, and I don't know what that math is anymore. Bill, I think it's about 192, 193. Do you know?
It's somewhere around there. I think it's probably more around. No, that's probably right. I think we did 189 before we started this new series. So yeah, 192 is probably about where we are.
Yeah. So we get to right around 200. We probably ought to, I don't know, with the little fanfare we usually have, but we should make a somewhat of a big deal out of it. My
Yeah,
guest host today, co-host, I've got Bill Sutton, who runs the modern workspace practice at XenTegra. Bill, how's it going in your world, specifically as it relates to Citrix?
that's going pretty well. You know, we've got a lot of funded projects and other projects that are going on actively, and trying to keep customers knowledgeable about the new features and functionality that's available under their licensing. That's always an ongoing process, and informing customers of what's available, and then re-informing, because tendency to just kind of forget about what was said, and so we always like to re-emphasize it so that folks aren't missing anything.
There's so much to cover. There really is.
There is. Mm-hmm.
Charles Anderson, you transitioned with us recently from our managed services team over to being a solutions architect in our modern workspace practice, which means a whole lot of Citrix. What are you seeing in the Citrix space?
Lots of people are looking at upgrading these days. We're still seeing some people that are sitting in the legacy days, we could call it. So they're missing out on a lot of the critical improvements that Citrix has released recently.
Yeah, just hit keep rolling. So, guys, we had a few moments before this. So we picked a blog. So the blog we chose today is this one by Sean Bass, who runs the DaaS team over at Citrix, and it is Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops, aka CVAD, CVAD, 2607 long-term service release. Why standing still costs more than upgrading? Bill, let's talk about a couple of things here. First, let's set the level set here and make sure everybody knows that if you've moved to DaaS for your entire Citrix control plane, or moved to DaaS for most of it, what I'm talking about there is the NetScaler gateway piece and storefront. Some people like to keep those behind. I'm not sure why. If you're doing that, there better be a good reason these days. But for the most part, using the whole DaaS product is the way to go. They don't have to worry about this LTSR for the control plane, Bill, right? Because it's already done for them.
For the most part, yes. The only thing they have to worry about is periodically keeping their VDAs, the virtual delivery agents that are running on their actual workload servers or desktops, up to date. There is a service that does that for them if they have it enabled, but for those who don't have that enabled, then yes, the only thing they need to be worried about is getting the 2607 LTSR on those VDAs, and they'll get all the goodness that comes with it.
Yeah. Bill, I'll come back to you in a second with this question, but Charles, can you think of, or do you know a good reason why any of our customers are still using the on-prem control plane known as CVAD?
No, I mean, most people should be moving to it now. A lot of people are holding on to that legacy mindset of that they need it, or they have a local NetScaler for regular DNS load balancing or internal web traffic, but there's not really a good reason these days.
The only reason I can think is maybe data security, maybe just a little bit when there's nothing but metadata up there. I think for the most part, it's just people don't understand the value of what Citrix is doing. And some of them have a legacy mindset that, this thing was not overly stable 5-6 years ago. Now it is, and there's lots of ways to work around it so that, you can, just like Microsoft, when it comes to Exchange, you can trust that Citrix is going to have it up better than you are. And if they don't, then it's their responsibility to get it fixed, not yours. It's a little bit of in some cases, I'll call it a control freak scenario. And that's probably true more often than not. And a lot of times people think that holding on to that's benefiting them, and it's probably not. So, Bill, this first section here talks about most technology budgets are shrinking, most IT environments are not. So finding ways to be productive and add value is something Citrix is doing, not only in the DaaS product, but in the CVAD product, which we're talking about here with the 2607 long-term service release. Let me break down something real quick. I know you guys know this, but I want to make sure everybody knows it. 26 means it came out in the year 2026. 07 means it came out in July of 2026. And LTSR means it's the long-term service release, means it's supported for how long? So it's supported for 3 years. Citrix will come out with .1, .2, .3, .4. They'll fix things, but they're not adding features to it.
Yes, there are current releases that are released, I believe, every 18 months now, that contain the latest features, but those are only supported for, I believe, 2 years, whereas the LTSR is supported for 3 years. The only downside, like you said, Andy, is you're not getting the added features. You're getting any bug fixes or security patches as a routine via cumulative updates, but you don't get new features until the next LTSR.
Yeah, and then the concern on the current releases, the CRs, is you might get the new feature you're looking for, but you might get a bug in the process.
You might
be careful.
Yep.
And if you can get to an LTSR and stay there, great. If you need a feature that really is needed by the business and you can't wait for the next LTSR, go for it. But get some help from people like us that have already tested in the wild and can give you feedback and can support you if something goes wrong. This next section is titled "Getting More from Existing Investments." It's got 2 call outs: one, improved session delivery, and improved cost management. Bill, you want to tackle this first one here, improved session delivery?
Sure. So they have Citrix in this LTSR has relatively significantly improved the efficiency of the overall protocol bandwidth consumption by about 14% based on their internal testing and based on the prior LTSR release. Obviously, this helps with the user experience, making it more performant and less prone to lag by improving the bandwidth capabilities or improving the bandwidth consumption by 14%. That's the first one there.
And Bill, how many years have you followed Citrix and they continue to improve the protocol year after year after year? And you get to a point where you're like, well, I guess there's nothing else to do. But meanwhile, they keep improving it while in parallel our bandwidth gets better and better and better.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They do consistently improve the protocol year over year over year, to your point. And I don't, I guess different programming capabilities, different ways of being able to compress things, new codecs, all of the above, I guess, helps them be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us taking advantage of newer technologies that couldn't exist before that now do, both from a network perspective as well as the backend infrastructure and the endpoint perspective. Right. It all has to kind of work together for it to be successful.
Exactly. Yeah.
What would you say at this point, to your best guess, if you want to have a good user experience, what type of latency without packet loss are we talking about?
I would defer to Charles on this, but I think it probably is in the couple hundreds of milliseconds, maybe higher.
It has been higher. I've seen people up to 220 to 250 and still never lost anything in there. They don't have any latency going on from the VDI refresh perspective, but they are getting better with it. We know there's tons and tons of internet stuff going on out there that causes latency, but
yeah, it's just crazy to watch. Just when you think things can't get any better, they do. And Sean is an expert in this. He spent many, many years being the guy who was behind all the protocol. Bill, what was it called when they would bake off the protocols against each other?
I don't remember.
With protocol wars is what I want to call it, but it seems like they had some
I think that's what I remember it being called.
So every time I meet with another vendor in the industry, they talk about how they've caught and passed Citrix. I'm like, well, which version?
Or a bake-off or the protocol wars, either way.
Yeah. All right, Charles, I'll come to you for the next section. It talks about improved cost management. Citrix cloud cost visibility has improved. Operational lifecycle, Azure, Microsoft Azure specifically. What are they trying to say in this section?
With everybody, there's people still moving to AVD. There's people that are using Google Cloud. The integrations that Citrix has directly to those are able to manage and optimize the resources effectively. So at, let's say 10 o'clock, most of your users log off. It has the ability to just go ahead and leverage the shutdown commands to go ahead and shut it down, and it starts building trends. So let's say at 6 to 7 in the morning, most of your users start logging in. It'll have those VMs powered up and ready to go.
Yeah. Charles, I'm assuming at your house you let the air conditioner run all day at full blast with the refrigerator door open and the back door open, right?
No.
Of course not.
Gotta save some pennies somewhere.
That's where we're at with this space when it comes to the cloud. It all costs. I mean, first of all, it's the right thing to do for the environment. Let's get that out of the way. But at the same time, it costs money. So every penny counts by the second because they add up. And I love the statement here. It all comes back to maximizing return on your investment. I spend a lot of time trying to convince people that Citrix is not Broadcom. They really are trying to help you get the most out of your investments. And that's true without a doubt. And a big part of that is things like what we're seeing here, the improvement in the protocol, as well as the operational cost effectiveness efficiencies that are kicking in. I had a really good opportunity last week to present in front of a group of people, and I was using my Windows 365, not my Citrix desktop, and I wasn't able to take advantage of some of the Citrix enhancements. And I didn't realize at the time that's why I was failing at what I was doing in front of a room full of people. But it was such a great opportunity to explain the differences between trying to use native Microsoft and then improving it with Citrix, front-ending it. Bill, this next section, operational risk that you may not be tracking. Cybersecurity and compliance investments are only valuable if organizations can act. This first section talks about understand behavioral risk. What's this about?
Yeah, this is some of the new features in 2607, or one of the new features, which is AI-powered insights into session recording. So imagine if you're a customer that records every session, which I think most don't do that. Most of them use triggers based on activity or behavior, or maybe location. They'll track, they'll session record that. But imagine if you've got all of those session recordings sitting out there, and you want to be able to identify a trend or identify a specific issue that might have occurred in one of those recordings. You're going to spend a lot of time watching rather unexciting videos of sessions. AI session recording gets you the ability to be able to put together a natural language query and say, I need to see the session by such and such person on this date when they were accessing SAP, what have you, and it will go out and bubble up all of the recordings that have that data contained in them and present them for you at the point where that application was launched, and you can go ahead and search for them that way. So it makes it much simpler to bubble up into that data.
And what I find interesting about this is a no-brainer for the DaaS, the platform in the cloud solution. But to have this ability while you're using the on-prem control plane seems unique to me. How does this work?
Yeah, I dug into it a little bit because I had the same question, Andy. Essentially, it uses AI Azure or Azure AI, the OpenAI APIs in Azure. You connect the session recording server to the OpenAI APIs in Azure, and then it essentially looks at the recordings that you ask it to look at and provides you information on when those applications launched and when which ones it sees that application launched in for that user or that time of day, and then you can review them from there. A lot of the processing takes place on your server that's on-prem, your session recording server, but a lot of it also takes place in the cloud via the API.
Okay. And is Citrix able to use a combination of not only the what's on the screen that it's capturing, but what's in Director and maybe even the Uber agent piece?
I don't know that if that's the case. I know it can leverage the metadata that is captured by the session recording server. I don't know if we've gotten yet to the point where it can leverage Director or Uber agent. I didn't see anything about that, but I would imagine that's coming if it's not already there.
All right, you take the platform and just kind of put it all together. There's so much goodness that can come out of that if you're functioning within silos, you'll never get. And then Citrix bringing all that together is going to really empower the administrator and the IT team to have more value out of the platform.
Yeah, I mean the key thing is it allows you to leverage AI to analyze the recordings so that you don't have to manually review hours of video. That's really the key piece of this.
I bet most people may need to, but they don't because it's just too onerous of a task. Hey, Charles, to you now. The next section here says accelerate compliance. What does this mean?
Getting real-time data and security events around those apps that are in use. One of the things that Citrix got caught up on is the ability to force compliance around those apps that you're trying to push. So if you're using a website, you want to make sure it's coming through the Workspace app, and you're using Google Chrome Enterprise Browser. It can pick up compliance off the endpoint and apply those app protections around the device perspective and make it more secure for you.
Yeah, we've always talked about Citrix being the magical piece in the middle where the apps all run from. But in their world, not only can you do that piece, but you can actually end-to-end visibility into what's going on. And that's what the security guys need more than anything. And historically, the security teams have relied on environmental tools to kind of figure out what was going on in the environment. Well, this allows you to go straight to where it's actually executing and have you have better insight into it. Next section talks about productivity, keeping users productive. Let's see, technology investments succeed or fail based on productivity they enable. I'd say it's either one of two things. It's productivity for the business and how they use the apps, or security, or both, really. Talks about poor collaboration experience, delayed response, real failure, slows people down, increases support, all the things that go with that. Across thousands of employees, those small frustrations quickly become measurable cost to the business. Bill, the first bullet here talks about the Citrix WIM solution. How does that play a role in this?
Yeah, they've enhanced the WIM. Some of the enhancements they put into WIM in this release are to handle routine administration and help automate it. So the ability of WIM to be able to identify a situation and then kick off a script to automatically remediate or to handle it, maybe not to remediate, yes, but to handle automated administration. WIM, of course, is a key part of the story and has really grown a lot. Originally it was an acquisition and it was an on-prem solution and they brought it to the cloud, and now the cloud version is really what you want to be using because of the ease of integration. Even if you have an on-prem environment, you can still leverage WIM in the cloud, and WIM will help with log-on performance. It can help improve log-on performance as well as give you visibility into log-on performance beyond what Director does. Makes a huge difference in a lot of industries, the capabilities of WIM.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to that, user productivity, user success story that we kind of led into that with.
Yeah.
I find it super interesting because I've been telling people for years that you need GPUs in your solution, and they're pushed back because they really want, they really don't get that the average user's experiencing GPUs every day. Even that endpoint that's connecting into a Citrix environment has a GPU in it. Bill, I'll let you go with this one. I bet you're excited about it. What is this piece where Citrix is actually?
They're calling this HDX Super Resolution,
Yep.
which is designed, as it says in the first sentence, higher quality visual experience. And how it does this is by leveraging, just as you said it, those client-side GPUs on the user's endpoint instead of relying on the expensive server-side GPU. A lot of laptops these days and desktops have some form of a GPU in them, and
All of them.
that's just it. It's just almost all of them, if not all of them. So they're able to now leverage that GPU to offload some of the processing on the endpoint, which of course improves the user experience without all the costs it takes to get a GPU in the data center.
Yeah. So, but you're not telling people they don't need GPUs in the data center, but
No.
this is an alternative.
Yes. Well, I think it actually can offload some functions on the endpoint GPU and then some on the server side GPU, or if it can't, it will. I mean, if you're doing something like CATIA or some of these really high capacity resolution type AutoCAD drafting and engineering applications, you're going to need a server side GPU. But for your typical PowerPoint type transitions and things of that nature, being able to leverage the endpoint GPU will be equally as beneficial as having a server-side GPU.
Now, you may not know this yet, but that's something you have to turn on, or does it just kick in by default?
I don't know the answer yet.
It is a policy configuration.
You have to tell it.
Yeah. You do have to enable. What it really does is it helps with the rendering on the endpoint perspective. So the processing component, let's say AutoCAD's in use, the endpoint is helping render the return resolution to be quicker. You still, like I said, you still need the GPU on the server side to be able to process it, but the rendering has definitely helped from the endpoint perspective through the Workspace app.
Charles, what if you don't have a GPU on the back end, the server side? Does this work?
It does a little bit. It just helps with speeding up the rendering. I haven't seen any issues thus far with it. So, I mean, right out the gate, it's been pretty good with the high-res graphics, Teams calls, things like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do we have it turned on here as XenTegra?
I have it on a small subset that we've been messing with.
What are the negatives of turning that on?
It does increase workload on the endpoint. you will see at least a 10% spike in resource utilization.
Yeah.
As soon as you enable it.
That's interesting because I'm, trying to use a IGEL based endpoint. It's kind of low end on the memory side. I haven't really brought this up or haven't brought up at all on the call. I did get the team to spec out a laptop that I wanted. With the hardware increase, it's up to roughly $3,000. I'm just going to stick with my $400 thin client that I ride around with.
Memory is
all right,
key these
Charles.
days. I can tell you that.
The next section here talks about beyond graphics. LTSR also strengthens collaboration with major unified platforms. What's this covering?
They're starting to integrate more into. I mean, we've been Teams and Zoom for a while now, but they're starting to get more involved into the WebEx components and other communication platforms like Cisco, Jabber. That's coming down the road. There's other workflows around Slack coming. It's definitely growing. They haven't released a full list yet, but it is coming out here soon.
And that's one of the reasons why when we walk into an account like we're going to do this afternoon, Bill, where they're considering other options, you're just like, get it. But Citrix continues to evolve and thinks beyond just Microsoft Teams for unified communications. Is that other platform you're thinking about moving to doing the same? And I think more often than not, the answer is no.
The answer is no. Yes, that's you're correct there. We see a lot of interest in certain other platforms, and the key thing I ask when a customer's discussing that is say, are you doing Teams or Zoom or WebEx meetings with video and audio and screen sharing? And more often than not, the answer is yes. And if that's the case, something like Citrix is what you really need to get the kind of performance you're expecting.
Yeah, and you may not be doing it with multiple platforms, but the people that you're connecting to that are hosting their meetings, they might be.
Correct. Absolutely. And you're participating in those meetings. And if you want your video to show in any sort of reasonable manner, you need to have the kind of protocol that and power that's going to be able to render that properly.
Right. Okay, well, we're at the bottom of the blog here by Sean Bass. This says next steps. Talking about their LTSR releases are intentionally designed with long-term support files, life cycle in mind. Stability being the key thing here. Bill, what is the one takeaway that you would want people to take away from this latest LTSR and just LTRs in general?
Yeah, well, obviously, LTSRs are the ones that have the longest support runway, and you don't have to make changes to them unless you need new features. So that's just a general statement. But what I'm most interested in, and that is the improvements to the delivery of the sessions by, making the connection and the transport more efficient. Like they said, 14%. I think that's pretty good for one release. Not to mention the super resolution capabilities leveraging client-side GPUs. So that's two takeaways for me, but both of them are related to end-user performance because that's really where the rubber meets the road, so to speak.
How about you, Charles?
Productivity. Productivity is key. I mean, when none of us make money if people aren't working. If you can adopt Citrix, get the productivity going, and be secure about it, you're going to get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have one overall comment I talk about a lot when I get in front of customers, and that is LTSRs are great. Don't adopt the first one. Adopt the 0.1 or 0.2 that comes out just to make sure somebody else sees what's going on. This is interesting to me. I just pulled the downloads page. It actually calls it Citrix Virtual App and Desktop 7. I don't think I've seen a number in a while that made me realize what version we're on. And then 2607. Bill, what do you think the right approach is in terms of giving it some time to bake?
I think you're right. I think wait for CU1 or deploy it in your test dev environment and kick the tires. And if you don't see any issues, then you can certainly move it over. But I generally recommend waiting until CU1.
Yeah. Yeah. In addition to that, I'll go back to the idea of just deploying DaaS, where it's all hosted and managed for you in the cloud, and let Citrix figure out what the right stable version is. Them support it.
Yes.
Carl, anything you want to leave us with?
Nothing in particular, Andy.
No, Charles, anything you want to leave us with?
If you're currently on-prem and evaluating it, please contact us. Let's talk about it. We can definitely help map it out for you. That is a huge key these days. Just understanding what you would need and what it's going to take to get there.
if you're on-prem with your control plane and your NetScaler and storefront servers, either or, just challenge yourself as to why. And if you don't have a good reason, a good solid reason, we want to help you figure that out, or even be the people that challenge you as to why you're doing it. Because for the most part, you shouldn't be at this point.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Andy. I think a lot of folks can move to cloud. The only ones that I know of that really are gapped environments from some sort of regulatory or something reason where they have to have it all on-prem and locked in an enclave. But those are pretty few and far between. Most folks, really, there's no reason they can't go to DaaS.
And the reality of it, some of it's going to move to the cloud anyway, like the license one that's in the cloud now, no matter what.
That's right. That's right.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for joining. I appreciate the conversation, and always good to do what we do, which is add context to content in the Citrix world. We'll do it again in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. Thanks, Andy.
Right.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.